Hello and welcome. I'm Ruha Fifita, Curatorial Assistant for Pacific Art here at QAGOMA. You're watching a virtual talk held in conjunction with the 10th Asia Pacific Triennial of Contemporary Art, or as it's affectionately known, APT 10. I'm calling in from Kurilpa, the riverside land and waters of the Yagara and Turrbal peoples. And I would like to pay respects to those traditional custodians and their elders, past, present, and emerging, and extend that respect to all First Nations peoples that this conversation reaches out to today. Today we'll be exploring the work of the Seleka International Art Society Initiative, their artwork, specifically their artwork for APT 10. It is my great pleasure to be joined on screen here by Seleka artists Taniela Petelo and Tevita Latu, and also to be joined by artist and academic and APT 10 interlocutor and translator Lingikoni Vaka'uta. Taniela and Tevita are joining us from their Seleka studio in Haveruloto on the main island of Tonga, and Lingikoni joins us from Suva in Fiji. So welcome to all of you, and thank you for making the time to be here with us today. Really looking forward to this conversation. Perhaps we can just dive right in, and it would be wonderful to hear from you there in Tonga a little bit about the story of this work. Hifoki Olunga is the title. How it began, how the ideas evolved as you guys were in the making of this work for APT 10. So I'll just hand straight over to you.
Okay, after we opened the table about this exhibition from the beginning, we were really, we appreciated the fact that Ruha had decided to have us to paint for Tonga. Since this is our first time to partake in this event, and it was quite challenging at the beginning because we didn't know. I mean, especially myself, I had not exhibited in Brisbane, and the whole idea sounded very alien to me. So it took a while to sit down. We conversed with the young people about just having propositions about the work, the ideas, and also just to my own contemplating and reminiscing about what the body of work should look like, because I perform different various styles, and I did not know which. I just had to pick a certain style for this work, or two. So I decided to pick two styles for this. And like I mentioned before, we were not quick to name it, but it's a fruit of just numerous discussion, a group discussion of the work, how it should be approached. And finally, it gave birth to this name. And I think we're really lucky. It was kind of a tricky name too. Just the wordplay in there make no sense of it, but I think that's why it attracted our attention to the words too.
Maybe we can, for the benefit of audiences, in terms of Hifoki Olunga translates to something like descend up or get down to the top as a translation. Is that right?
So descend up, in my mind, you remain in one place. You're not moving anywhere. If you're in that certain place, you're not moving anymore up, because you're there, you're existing, your being is there. You're just making work there. You live there. The Hifoki Olunga thing is just rediscovering yourself again in that face, in that in that complete dimension where your body and your being are. But your physical is not moving anywhere. You just I know you wake up from a dream and you find yourself, you are with yourself again in that same place, not going anywhere physically, maybe, but your mind is. maybe your skills are, they travel to gain new strength, or you remain there.
Tevita, you mentioned that you had a couple of different styles, and I understand that this work is perhaps one of Seleka's most ambitious works, where you're thinking not just about the painted work, but creating the space for the work to inhabit while they're here at the gallery. Just wanted to share, wondered if you could share a little bit about the works you chose to put in there, and also how the thinking that went into the design of that space as well.
I wanted to make the biggest artwork on paper in Tonga. So that was just a selfish ambition I had. So I decided to go on with it, and I did create the biggest work on paper in Tonga, from Tonga. So, and I'm actually glad about that. And I could not accomplish that with the style I employed on the other smaller pieces of work, the portrait style. So I decided to pick the Kupesi for that. So, but I had to beat myself up numerous times to come up with new ideas, new concept for each of the 200 plates. So it was 200 plates of Kupesi, and each one where I wanted to keep them original in their design. Yes, so it took a while. I mean, it took me probably over 6 months to actually have concept and the actual work put out. But I was actually happy with it. And then I did that. Then came the smaller portraits, and the storytelling, which were in color and of a very different nature to the Kupesi. Kupesi are control and order, but the other one is just completely the opposite. And but I think I had while I was making the other, I wish I was longing for the other, for the Kupesi. When I was making the Kupesi, I was longing to get it done with so I can move on to the color work. So, but in the midst of making the Kupesi, I had to stop it at some point and make the color work. So I'd made 3 or 4, and then I was quite happy that I'd seen I made some to begin with, then I jumped back onto the Kupesi. So just zigzagging over a year and a half. But yeah, a good story, I remember a good story about Tufmahina when I was a kid. So I'll leave that. I'll bring up the color palette, and then paint that story. Maybe 2 or 3. That's how it was done. I do it as I remember it. Yeah, I did not want to make up fairy tales or fantasy about the work. So I had to really remember in terms of places and how old I actually was, and who else or who was actually participated in that scene. So yeah. But I different aesthetic also. I look at the Kupesi, I look at the color work. I like the Kupesi because it took a lot of effort. I like them for different things. I enjoy my color work because I think it's more like me, not control, just less control, not in any way like an anarchy. Just not too much rules is applied to the work. Whereas you would see when you see the Kupesi, it's so confined. Yeah. Maybe it's for some people. I enjoy the concept. I like thinking of new things. But when I see it, you can see pain in there. The restrictions and control. That's too much, too overwhelming for me. I like to just throw shit on the paper and make that shit becomes me. Yeah, make that shit become a part of my story. Yeah.
It'd be nice to dig a bit into some of the narratives in your work, in both of your work. And I thought maybe just to hear a bit, you've mentioned 2 styles. One is that you approach this really leaning on Kupesi, which I understand is the Tongan word for design or pattern that comes from the making of bark cloth, where there's kind of this rigid geometric shapes and really leans on that. And then you've described this more painterly work that has layered narratives within it and characters, and we see that there. And just that on that third one, I think the portraits as well that you mentioned, and I know, Taniela, you have a couple of bodies of portraits as well. One where you've been experimenting with quite a different style, working with the cutouts. I wondered if you could tell us a bit about those bodies of works, those groups of works.
Okay. So I came up with the idea for the name of the portraits that I did, all 32 altogether. I named it Tu'amata Moana, actually. As in play with words. Do you remember Lingikoni, the wafu here, the Tu'amata Moana? So I just changed it, Tu'amata Moana, as in like outside of our Oceania, something like that, you know?
Wow.
Yeah. And to me, I try to match the idea of creating them with the name and also the structure of the whole artworks of the Whare. As in, it's kind of inverted, or reversed. So yeah, my body of work is also, it's different, but it's the same at the same time. And this was the first time I've ever used this media, as in magazines only, and then all magazines. There are some artworks in there, I think one or two that I included paint in it, which is like the transition from painting to collaging that I started. And yeah, I feel like this is like the most interesting work I've ever done, like to me, as I felt when I was working on them. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting kind of reflection of this way of working with the collages that I remember in one of our earlier conversations, Taniela, you were sharing how it's kind of a way of honoring that your influences come, because many of them were travel magazines that come from, you're really open to having a practice that's influenced by not just what's around you, but ones that may seem foreign, you know, to where you live and where you are. And I know that's common for both of your works, that you really open up your space and your practice to be influenced by many different things, your own stories there. So I wondered if either of you would like to share anything on some of those influences for your work and how they're captured in the body of paintings.
Okay, for my Tufmahina series, the smaller ones. Even that, I almost try new things with my brushes also, but it might not be evident when you view my previous work to this body of work. But I also you know, I kick myself in the back just to even come up with something that's breathing some fresh air, and not so much an imitation of what I had done previously. So he had taken up a challenge of making something new, and so I did also. So I had done numerous kupesis before, but this one was a major upgrade in terms of just putting my all into my mind to make the kupesi work and make the 200 separate from each other. Even I just feel boxed up making kupesi because asymmetrical. Everything has to be in line, in perfect proportion, and I would do some of that, and then just to be let free, and I wanted some freelance work. I'll do my own the color work. So it was a good balance, and they speak of the same story. They speak of the same. I mean, they're both from me, but I'm happy that because there are times, been the same for each artist. You get quite fed up with what you're doing. You want to see something quite different on the canvas. And that's how I do it. So I resort to one when I'm sick of the other.
So David, I was just
you know,
interested in your comment about the stories within them. Would either of you like to elaborate on the stories that you were focusing on in your work?
Well, a large part of my life was, the first half of my life was being spent at this very place. So it's very enriched with a huge portion of my memories and feelings is still, it's still trapped in this place. Very sentimental to me even now. That's why I felt it was really only natural for me to make the work based on this place, because that's where my family was. So it was not just a mecca for me, but it was for the family. So it was our mean of living. So our life and time had to be spent there as for work, and it became it was my favorite hangout. The #1 spot for myself, my family, myself, and it's so I could not have picked, if I did not pick Tukumahin, I would have picked Australia maybe when I was there for school. I didn't want to pick Australia. I want to pick something indigenous to me, really authentic, and I would have been okay.
That land, huh, in front of the the king's residence.
Well, I don't know the meaning of it, but yeah, I grew up in my family where we were farming that plot. There's a huge land owned by the king. So, and part of the work is based on that. So also it was a massive burial places for the civil wars back in 100 years, 200 years ago. So we would come across some debilitating bones and just graves. So before us, it was being stepped on and be utilized by generations before us, and then we came one day and we made use of that land. Then we dug up some history of it, and now I see it. We removed the coconut trees from there, so now it's coconutless. So that's one thing we left on. That's a scar we left on that land. Just like those people before us, they left bones in there. We dug them up. And my stories implies all those things. How we grew vegetables and we sold and exported, and that went into our school fees. And that's how I am able to speak English and paint like I do. I guess we invested, we had business on that land.
I think what Tevita and Taniela are doing is sort of, when they're talking about, okay, I'm kind of fed up doing this old thing and trying new things, it's kind of very similar to the avant-garde arguments. They are trying to push the envelope, so to speak, in different styles and new ideas, and trying it. It's exactly, we'll push it, try to get new ideas and try to get the public get used to it. I mean, I'm looking for the outside, for the art people to say it, but it's also in what in Tongan concept is called tuli malie. There is the traditional tuli malie with applied for traditional art, but it's also in order to create new art form. It's very hard in Tongan society when the traditional to departs. So when you contemporary, when you depart and do something else, it's called tuli malie. So in other words, they are chasing their own malie, their own aesthetics, their own ideas. So basically, what they're doing is chasing their own malie, their own story, their own questions. So basically, if Taniela and Tevita in the Kalapu and people said, what are you guys doing? It doesn't look like Tongan art. So what the argument for that? Kataki, it's an kulturi artwork ma, yeah. Peteke mahino, peteke fe ai. Why be tau turi mari for tutu? Why mo tau turi mari for look for fato? But what I am doing, yeah, for this. So in order to depart from traditional ways, I think what they're doing is chasing their own Mali. Because in Tonga society, Mali is in the top. Beauty is not Mali unless it's acceptable by society, unless it's just you and your friend and you say it's beautiful, and you have your own Mali. So I think for me as an academic to analyze that, they are at the moment in the forefront of chasing that Mali, trying to change the narrative, creating new narrative. I'm looking at it, it's sort of, yeah, it seems for as a Tonga, that's what they're chasing, new ideas.
I think that's a good description of what we're pursuing here.
To build on what Lingikoni has shared, that Seleka, you make a lot of effort to really try and challenge yourselves to think differently and to welcome different ways of thinking about things, different perspectives. But my understanding as well is that you also put a lot of effort into creating work for your community, and that can be accessed by a local community. It's very much, its final destination is often to be artwork to be exhibited or shared in Tonga. So I just wonder about, how local community engages with your work and how that shapes your practice of finding the balance between those two things.
I think our actual work is hardly, maybe Taniela's work is the exception, but it's doesn't pull strings with the audience here, especially my work, and sometimes the Seleka's work in general, everybody's work here. But I'm just speaking about myself here on my behalf. We run workshops at the communities and in the outer islands and the main island, teaching them, informing them about arts, its principles and basic steps in art. But my work, I would probably refuse to make something how else do I paint Tongan? How else am I supposed to make anything Tongan or more Tongan in my work? That's just the way I see it. Look, some people are, their only comfort is painting like their next door neighbor. That's another way of painting, but it's not the only way. So my way of telling my story is just one of those ways. Too bad nobody is trying to imitate my way of telling my own story, nor am I imitating someone else's way of telling their stories. Also, maybe if I was to paint with words, nobody is liking the words I used to paint my stories with, or to tell my story. Nor do I think it's any less or greater than any other art teller or storyteller in Tonga. I am one of a few or many. I don't think my work is of less respect or integrity, because yes, I do use outside technique, but in doing so, people push my work out from Tonga. That's okay. I mean, how else do I mean, is legit as the work is, I believe they're Tongan, 100%. More Tongan than the Kopeshi work you would see overseas, done by Tongan artists, the diaspora arts. but yet they would collect the title Tongan art because they use the emblems and the motifs. But I'm not crying for that to be in my work, because I don't think that is enough to identify myself, to my wholeness as a Tongan, to use those motifs in any way in my work. Just so to remain Tongan or to be identified as Tongan, but has no necessary means of my work.
Can I share a memory?
Please.
Before I met Tevita, I used to come and hang out at for the Kalapu next door, and they would always refer to him as a deporta, deportee from the States or from Australia, because he's wearing like really baggy pants and hose and paintings and skateboard on the road. And the kind of music that he listened to was like metal, like heavy metal or punk rock. And they would always refer to it as Waipoko music. Yeah, no, Mami Wai and his Poko, so it's Waipoko music. And they call his work devil paintings, demonic paintings at Queensland. And it's just from looking without understanding. But luckily, I did follow that. I was like drawn into the I don't know.
The music was the first. We had a similar interest in music. He came up and asked for some music, so I gave him some CDs, and then
I would listen to it. I would never play it in front of my other friends because they might think that I'm a devil worshiper as well. So I play Tongan music with them, and then I listen to the other songs on my own, on my headphones. Yeah.
But they were not devilish music.
Yeah.
They were just your average punk band.
Yeah, like
that you would listen to on the radio. Like, like the commercial music. It's not even heavy duty satanic music. No, but that's enough to drive Tongans crazy.
It's interesting what you mentioned, Taniela, that it was just about not yet understanding, not yet being able to kind of speak the language of that music or that art and engage with it, where there was an ability to understand. And I think something that's really interesting about Seleka's work is that so much a part of you guys creating as well, both of you as lead artists, supporting and learning from each other, is the spaces you provide to build that understanding and have other people experiment with these same tools of, what can we learn from, how can we use the language of color, of, different musical genres to communicate and to express ourselves. So I wondered if just, even in this Hifoki Olunga, there's a lot of thought you've put into how do you create the space that provides the conditions where that's encouraged for people to really think outside the box and, to be ready to learn and experiment. I wonder, even in your studio space, what's Seleka learning at the moment about creating those spaces for others and providing education about different art forms?
Yeah. Our studio, our very own studio here is the breeding ground. So we work, and then people just come and drink out, and they watch us make the work on the spot. And there'll be questions from them, and then before you know, there's a discussion, and then there are books being taken out, or we look at artworks from books and artists, and then we bring out. We got a projector, so we watch art documentaries. That's how we slowly intervene with the people here and just building up the interest in the arts, be it painting or sculpture or poetry. But those are the means that we have to sort of speak about the arts and also gaining interest from these people. Apart from the fact that we go and reach out, go to actual schools and communities, but from our very own. That's how we had done it from year one, from square one. Having the table, put the material on the table and work. And I mean, people would rock up on their own. They'll come. But questions are asked much later. It's once we get to know each other really well, that they're confident, then they don't seem to be scared of asking questions that might not be relevant or smart enough that we think of. They would throw at us personal questions about our practice. So, and I had noticed over the years, based on how we present ourselves in answering questions and how we talk to them, we explain to them why there's such and such a color and a line and this and that. It draws them into it, and then eventually they want to pick up the paintbrush and try it for themselves. That's the primary way of us evangelizing art. And then secondly, we are able to have the means like of a projector and art books from overseas, and now we have the internet. So these are later ways of working, methods of teaching them, but we still use our first primary way of painting, which is the raw way of teaching and explaining and telling, which I find is the most effective of all. I mean, people can look at artwork online, but if we are here and they come and they see us making it, then I think they get a lot out of by asking us a lot of questions about how such and such is made and why. Why is it here? Why is it not there? Hopefully they will come back and say, "Hey, Dave, I wanna paint."
Connie, I'm wondering if you have any thoughts around knowing that you have also been part of artist collectives in the Pacific, particularly the Red Wave Collective, that made quite a significant contribution to diversifying and the development of contemporary art in the region. Just what distinguishes Seleka's approach and practice for you?
So the Seleka's approach and the Red Pelly's opening up your center is very similar in terms of operation. Like it's a Pelly open the center. It's Pacific Island sort of approach. Like you have that space and people come in, we watch our elders create art. We tend to imitate them. It's that kind of concept. I guess, and a Pelly opening that and Tevita just do it. It just become normal for them to open up space like, and that's how in the villages in the island, it's an open area and kids can come and other people can come and watch, learn and appreciate art. That's how we do it traditionally, and then we just open that. But to bring it back to what has been said before, I was interested in terms of when Tevita said, looking at how diaspora artists sort of excel in terms of contemporary art. It's a part of that. Like in me, I always wondered about that question, why the Pacific Islanders are more successful overseas. It's also in terms of not only the living aside, well, a big part is economic situation, purchasing power, but that's a different market in terms of area. But a big part of it also is discourse, it's art discourse. It's what are those ideas behind those artworks. And to bring it back, and to bring it back, it's like if we're looking at Tevita's work and when they're doing those portraits. Oh, okay. When you look at that, when you guys do all those weird looking portrait faces, those, if you be as a discourse writer, I could say, I can use a Tongan concept called mata and sio. Those are the two things that affect with those portraits that you have created. Mata, because that's our face for the public. As a Tongan, your most important thing is your mata. To put you down, they will degrade your mata. They create swear word out with mata something, or mata is something. So mata and then sio. Sio is important because if you do something like they consider as like that is stupid or inappropriate, they don't punish you. They punish you in terms of ayanga fefe ho sio. It's just, where did you go? How come you should have known better? So sio is important. Mata, sio is important.
Maybe Lingikoni, just for audiences that don't speak Tongan, mata is the
Mata
word
is
for
the
face.
Yes, and sio is to see or look. Yes.
Thank you.
So me, excuse me, when I look at those portraits, it's applied to mata and sio. Like look, it's a different kind of look. It's like there are some look there that is, yeah, sio fear, when sio na sio taaki. Like no, you know the sio taaki is like sio mutula or sio, like the gossipy kind of face or sort of, yeah. So there was a discourse to me that elevate those portraits is mata and sio. Those are the Tongan concept that comes out, that oozes out of those portraits of different faces, the way they look, as if they're judging you, as if they compliment you. All those. It's a Tongan concept of mata and sio that elevate those portraits and work. The art world doesn't look at beauty. Beauty is long gone. They look at the originality of ideas and style. That is it. Yes.
I was just thinking, service is there's a real spirit of service in the way that Seleka functions. And I wondered maybe, Taniela, if you could share some of the, what's on the horizon for Seleka now in terms of other things. I know you guys are involved in many things for the community and collaborating with organizations and other institutions. What are you looking forward to in this year, and what are you working towards as a collective? Nice to hear.
At the moment, we just finished the workshops with UNESCO, but everything will be exhibited on the 15th of December. That'll be all the result of the participant that we taught over the last few weeks, 7 weeks, probably
3 months.
Oh, 3 months. Yeah. And we will, all the participants will be exhibiting whatever they have made throughout that 3 months in December. But on Friday this week, we will be off to Vava'u. We will be carry on running workshops in for GPS in Vava'u, and also Hapai, Ha'ano Hapai. We'll stop by for 1 week there also. And then on our way back here, I am also being part of a media camp project. Will be on the first week of December. We will be running workshops with youth also. It's being funded from the States about doing media classes. And it's one of my things also. Like I love creating videos and music. And I'm really looking forward for that also. In the horizon, I think, yeah, that's the horizon for right now.
Yeah, so I was just thinking, this experience in creating a work for APT, you've shared really was something new and different. It was a new context. It was a new way of working in terms of thinking about the work and also constructing a space and an installation around that and thinking about the relationship to each other. And I just wondered, what for you are things you've learned from this experience that you'll carry with you moving forward and in your practice moving forward? What stands out?
I think for me, planning is like one of the most important thing of this exhibition. Yeah, honestly, I never really plan things. Even when I work, I don't like planning. I just start working, you know. And whatever I start with, I build up on it, or I add something else onto it, but never planned it. To me, planning, we've been planning for like over a year probably before we even actually started. Yeah, yeah. To me, like I think like planning really feeds my mind on how to do a work, like expectation and everything to be in order with the plan that you're doing, and also it's professional. And this is like my very first professional exhibition I've ever been part of, internationally. Yeah, and challenges, I would say, it's just this scaredness. Really fear, eh? Um, of doing something else, doing something out of my comfort zone is it's kind of scary at first, but once you touch it, once you use it, do it, I think it's starting to fade away, and you're getting used to it. You know, to me, it's like that. And sometimes I wonder, and I think, like when you were talking about the first question about the hifuki or runga, the thing on my mind was like I am the gap between the floor and the fare. Uh, to me, like the fare is the culture. The sorry, the floor is the culture. The fare is what Linconi was referring to, the turi Maria. That's my Maria up there, and I'm the gap. It's up to me whether if I want to fuse them or not. It's I can do that, I can be that, but I can do both, you know. But still, that's what I think. I am a gap.
So it's kind of pushing you to think about the relationship between that floor space and what you're chasing, what's possible, what you can kind of aim for. Thank you. Tevita, did you want to add to that, or?
I think the first and utmost thing that I learned from this experience was the intensity of that was being put into the work. I pushed my limits. I had worked for 4 days nonstop. Numerous occasions I worked normally, particularly 3 days. I can work 3 days nonstop, day and night, day and night. So I was just testing the limit of my mind physically and mentally. So that's one thing that I know the amount of energy that I can put into something and the commitment that I can put into something. This is the first thing that I've learned from this. I know how much I can perform, and like I said, I almost had to dress myself up mentally in quite a more how do you say it? More, maybe not more, but in just a different state of thinking, a state of mind to approach the work. So to make it behave differently, not so drastic, just enough that to me evokes self-satisfaction from creating something that's quite separate, quite different from I would have normally done. And it's not, maybe I was just a bit scared. I thought, oh shit, maybe my normal type of work would not be able to stand up, or it's not worth enough to speak for Tonga. And so I swung almost into a different mode of thinking, but it was not hurting me. I like it, I like it to And also, it's just money, body and mind in training. Actually, I was not as to do it. It was part of the enjoyment too. And I sincerely hope that the work will be received well, both his and my work. How irritating is our work to the people here, and for our work to speak for Tonga. It's even more irritating for Tongans, that we have been chosen. So you're partly to blame, Ruha. But I was not ready. I was not ready to morph into something more friendly or more attractive or more beautiful. I was just gonna keep it raw, as Tevita Latu would make it. So yeah, and after I did ask you twice, why did you pick us, Roa? I wanted you to say because I wanted you, Tevita, to make something Tongan. But that was not initially the idea why I chose to make a kopesi. That was a internally and a choice for myself. It was not something that kept me from hatreds that I would receive from the public here. Far from that. If anything, I want to make something so irritating and offensive. But I mean, the kopesi was not, it was not amending our relationship between us and our public audience here in Tonga. But thank you for choosing us.
I just want to say, like, whether you two realize it or not, you two were ready. You two were ready. Your work, to me, has international standard. It's just, we just need to weave that discourse into it. A lot of it is a lot of how people, I mean, I wrote about it. Our people's mentality towards art is not that widely advanced. We haven't reached that stage, where, the girl who woke up and took her bed to a gallery and sell it for $1 million. We haven't reached that stage yet. Our people think of art in terms of traditional art. We know that because we have juxtaposed the usefulness of that art into our culture and other. For us, into contemporary artists, I found this like 20 years ago, 10 years ago. It's really, really hard to push our people to understand it. The successful of the diaspora artists is majority because of the European audience. Successful of most bigger island countries in terms of selling contemporary art is because of the white people, what you call that comes and work here, the embassies, and there's a word for it. They are the biggest buyers of art, and in Tonga is also. It's just we just at the moment, our people have still not catch up with the understanding of art in order for them to move from buying art aesthetically that looks good on my couch to purchasing, investment purchasing, or to buying artists. We haven't reached that yet. We're still buying artwork. What I really want us is to sell artists, not sell artwork. I want to buy art Tevita Latu, not an artwork by Tevita Latu, I want to buy a Taniela Petelo, not an artwork by. So you're buying people's art, their signature basically. Like, people don't say, I want to buy an artwork by Picasso. No, they just say, I'm buying a Picasso. People with money, people have $30 million. Yeah, so we haven't reached that stage. So we're still building up. But in terms of your work, don't sell yourself short. You two are international standard, your work. We just have to weave the discourse once Ruha, and I think Ruha did the right choice. Because you two are the one who are antagonizing the Tongan community in Tonga in order to think, to build. What you're doing is pushing and poking in order for people to think and to build and expand the market in Tonga. That's what you're doing. And unfortunately, it's you two are in the front line to push that in Tonga. And you're doing what they call the hard work and and pushing and prodding and expanding. And you look at the people and keep looking at, like, from 5 years ago to now, the conversation has changed. If you go to Takalap, ask them, what is Mali? Question. You'd be surprised how a lot of Tongan born in Tonga do not know why the Mali is Mali. What is the criteria for call an artwork a Mali? You ask them. Then you have a Fokfekiki and a talk, and then it will expand the horizon into understanding of your. It's very also. And when I went to Tonga, I was surprised to ask you, why are things Mali? When you see something and you said Mali, why? And every day is struggling to explain. So a lot of people to go with feeling because Mali is contextual, beauty is contextual. You know, it's like in Tonga, the word Vaka'uta is you cannot have beauty, it's beauty, but you cannot have beauty without love. The word Vaka'uta in Tonga is a combination of the word o, Vaka'ufofo, or Vaka'u, and offer, love. Combine them together, you get beauty. So you get awe and love and beauty. You cannot have beauty without love or into Tongan said. Because beauty is below Mali. Because what is beauty to me, what is beauty to you, cannot be Mali if people do not think of it as beautiful. You and me and Taniela would look at a figure of a naked woman and say, wow, that is beautiful. Take that outside, the community will say, that is vulgar, therefore it's not beautiful. See, beautiful is contextual. Mali comes in. Ask those questions. Sometimes I ask myself, like, what is Fihia? And then from tackle on those questions, created images that I create the new artwork from. Asking questions myself. Don't sell yourself short. You are great. You know, I wish we all meet in Brisbane and then we'll be having a beer and yarning about art, but you know, you guys are fantastic. You guys are fantastic. And you are, you know, I don't envy you guys, but I appreciate the work you do on pushing and living in Tonga. You are pushing and prodding, you know, and thank you for what you're doing. Thank you.
Yeah, you put a huge effort into this project and I think it really shows. And just in regards to your question, David, I know you've asked this a few times, and in terms of this idea of choosing artists, I think it really, that for me, it was not so that much about making a decision to choose some and not choose some, but it was about for APT and for QAGOMA, where is there a rich opportunity to learn about different ways of engaging with artists and different ways that artists are learning to work in the Pacific. And I think that your practice, your commitment and just consistency to create art and experiment and learn with others provides a very rich opportunity for us to learn about the possibilities of contemporary art that are not defined by or limited by existing ways of working or engaging with artists in the Pacific. So, you know, that was I think we presented quite a broad challenge in terms of let's think about how you can work differently in a way that you haven't worked before. How can we see this opportunity as something that allows you both as artists and Seleka as a collective to challenge yourselves and platform not just your artwork, but this really considered way of working that has evolved over your commitment to living in this way for many years and to making many hard choices to be able to do that. So yeah, I feel very honored to have known that story that comes behind your work. And then to have this opportunity to learn together with you about what that experience can contribute to a broader discourse, to a global discourse, as well as hopefully to your own learning, as well as artists. And it's been a real pleasure to just touch on that today. I wish that everyone could have been part of the many conversations we've had, or somehow throughout this, you know, over a year long kind of working together on this. And we're so excited to be able to share it, just share it with audiences here. And perhaps we should have I wish we could record people talking about it so that could come back to, you know, it's a big part of what you appreciate is to be able to engage with people around your work and have those conversations. I know you really value that. Yeah, perhaps just to finish off, it would be lovely to go around and Is there any final thoughts or you'd like to raise? Please do so. Maybe we can start with Tevita.
If we were able to have been there, I would have liked to very much to talk with the audience and well, just understand how they take the work. I can give my own definition of the work, but it'd be great for them to have their own say, how they see it, how they approach it. You know? And I think that could be a very good lesson for me to I can have you form a new relationship with your work by accepting other people's view of it or how they approach it from their angle. I mean, and also, of course, for us to see other artists' work and have our own critiques and our own comments on their work. I think we would learn a great deal if we had been there to watch other people's work. That's
it. As I mentioned before, this is like the biggest exhibition that I've ever take part in, and I am not going to stop here. I'm aiming for a bigger one in the future, or like whatever's coming. Trying to keep it real, you know.
all right.
Just keep going. Just
Going, keep working, keep forcing myself. I mean, not forcing myself, but keep pushing myself, not to stay in the puddle that I am, but move to a bigger one. And keep working. And also, I would like to thank you, Lingikoni, for those word of encouragement. I'm really, really thankful for that coming from you. And also, Ruha, thank you so much for your help ever since day one that we started planning. And I really, really appreciate it. And please send our love and ofa'atu to all the Tongan community. I hope they, like he was saying, I mean, they won't like the work for sure, but I hope they won't.
I think they might. They might, we'll see. Lingikoni, I wasn't sure, did you have any final thoughts you'd like to share? Or?
I'm just glad to be part of this. It was being invited to be part of the how to pronounce that word?
Interlocutors?
Yes. It sort of gave me the insights and moving from a smaller platform to a bigger one. And I'm also grateful that I think this has become a precedent in terms of with all these big platforms, they always pick artists from diaspora, they always benefit. But this is the first time they have moved like to the artists who live in the island, who operate in the context of the island. And I'm wishing for more things like that to happen in order, and then, because they always, their go-to place, I understand, the go place is to go to New Zealand, big Tongans from New Zealand. Now, first time, and I'm so glad. I hope that will be the future focus, a bigger platform, the big artists who live in the island, because they understand the context, they live the context, and then bring their artwork to the world and say, oh, this is Tonga. And then I'm so glad that has happened. And I'm so glad to be part of it. So yes, thank you very much.
Thank you all. And thank you for the contribution you're making to this exhibition alongside, artists living in the diaspora, representing the Pacific, and others from around the region and other islands. Really looking forward to the conversations that unfold, and we'll look forward to also staying in touch with you as things, as the exhibition continues. Mahalo.
Mahalo.